So as a risk manager, one of your most important roles is your report writing. And when we're writing reports, and especially when these reports are going to senior execs or to the risk committee or even to the board and the CRO, we want to impart wisdom and knowledge on those people. So what do I mean by wisdom and knowledge? So I see a lot of reports being produced, and those reports produce data points. They produce data points, they produce information. So what do I mean by data points? So what they will do is say there were X thousands of something occurring, or X hundreds of something else occurring. And what these are facts and figures, and they belong in a risk dashboard. They don't really belong in your risk reporting. They should underlie your reporting. And what you want to ensure that when you're writing your reports up to senior execs is that it's not so much the data. The data is there to support your assertions, but what's important is that your reports that you write up to them are allowing them to make informed decisions. And when we do that, then what we're doing is imparting wisdom and knowledge on those individuals. A good example of this was when I was working for a company, and my CISO turned around to me and they said they wanted to report, and they wanted this information in the report. And a lot of the information they wanted in the report was data. And what I was saying, well, that data isn't really giving you the answers that you want. They are just data points, and they're not going to give you what you're really after. And to give you an example of one of those data points, one of them was overdue actions and closures of overdue actions. So what we had was a high number of overdue actions sitting in our registers, and what he wanted to do is see this level of overdue actions reducing over time. And as I said to him, I can put that data in there and you will see those overdue actions reducing over time. However, what's actually happening is when you go and sit down with those teams, what's happening with those teams is that senior management haven't made a decision, or they're not able to answer the question. So for example, they can't approve a budget for something or other to happen, and therefore it gets put off by 6 months. So we move the date out by 6 months. And so what was actually happening was a lot of those actions were being reduced, but they weren't actually being closed off. And so if we give data points, we don't always give the underlying message that's really happening. And if we looked at that as an example, what was really happening was senior management weren't making a decision. So what they weren't doing was either accepting the risk or mitigating the risk. But if they do one or the other of them, we can close them down, and that's a load of work that those teams don't have to do. So if you do good reporting, and reporting that gives some level of knowledge behind what's happening and some level of what your assurance levels are, then you do two things. One is execs can make a decent decision, and two, the teams that are further down the line, instead of them always moaning and groaning or focusing on too many things, can start closing stuff off. Even if all senior management is saying is we don't have the budget for that now, we'll go and look at it in 6 months' time. At least then the teams on the ground don't have to do anything. They can kind of let it go, come back to it in 6 months' time. So I hope that helped. As I say, I'll leave my email address in the comments, and if you want to ask some questions about your reporting, or you want to try and make your reporting a little bit more beneficial to those who are going to read it, feel free to give me an email, and I'm quite happy to help you out.